Caty, my first question for you is what was your first thought when you heard your test results were positive?
Honestly, I wasn't surprised. I had already had symptoms for about 5 days by the time I got my results back, so I was gonna be more surprised if I was negative, just based on my symptoms. So it was honestly, I wouldn't want to say relieved, but I guess it just kind of confirmed my feelings.
Take us back to the day when you started experiencing those symptoms. What were you experiencing? What made you think I better go get tested?
So in the beginning, I'd say the first day I just started feeling really run down, super low energy. I started feeling just a little bit of chest pressure, just a little bit of tightness, nothing crazy. But then I was like, uh-oh, I kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna play it by ear for the next day or so. But I went ahead and didn't go to work that Monday just to be safe, and then I went and got tested. And then the day I got tested, my symptoms were much worse. So it turned out to be a good thing that I did not go to work.
Absolutely. Talk about how sick you got. Talk us through the days you said the symptoms got worse. How so?
So I'd say the next day when I got tested, it was um everything was just starting to intensify a lot. I was super, super tired. The chest pressure just started intensifying a lot, and I started getting super feverish, body aches, headaches. The headache lasted for the longest. I still get intermittent headaches, but definitely just very feverish, chills, just waking up in the night, kind of, lost my appetite, loss of smell, pretty much everything you've been reading about.
How long did it take you to recover from these symptoms?
So I'm still recovering. I'm on week 3 now, and I'm still really fatigued. I'm probably gonna need a nap after this, but it's been getting a lot better. So now I'm basically just down to fatigue and headaches here and there. My smell isn't totally back yet. I think that's probably gonna take some time, I would imagine. But other than that, I'd say most of my other symptoms are basically gone now.
I think a lot of people hear about the test and a lot of people have gotten tested and they receive the negative results. But for those who haven't got any sort of test, talk us through the testing process.
So I got tested at the St. Pete's Urgent Care, and their setup is really, really, really efficient. So all I did is I pulled up. I had a my doctor call an order in for the test. I explained my symptoms to his nurse over the phone. I pulled up to the urgent care parking lot. They have designated lanes for the testing, and I pulled up, called the number, and then I let them know my name, my birthday, and they went ahead and sent a nurse out, and she came and did the test. And so what the test is she comes out and she had a swab, and they stick it all the way up for about 10 seconds, and they twist it, and it is pretty uncomfortable for those 10 seconds, but then it's done. So you just kind of like ripping the band-aid off.
All right. Um, do you have any advice for people on avoiding contracting COVID-19?
Masks. I know people are so sick of hearing about it, but I wish I had been more diligent about it beforehand. And I wasn't. I had the mindset of, I'm young, I'm 23, I'm not gonna get it. I just wasn't being as careful as I should have been. Um, but now the one thing I was doing that I think really was helpful is I was carrying hand sanitizer everywhere. I had wipes for wiping down the grocery carts, things like that. Always hand sanitizing after touching public doors and things like that, and just being really careful.
Now, earlier, Caty, when we spoke, you mentioned that you feel there is a stigma surrounding the coronavirus and when people get it, and you've experienced that now. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so and that was one thing that definitely caught me off guard, is because I was already kind of dealing with being sick, and it's scary because you've read so much on the internet and there's so much information and not all of it's accurate, so you don't really know what to take at face value. And so I think I understand that people are scared and there is a lot of uncertainty with this, but it was just so, it was very, it was puzzling for me um to tell people, oh, I tested positive, and rather than the response being, oh my goodness, like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? As opposed to, no, they're just more worried about, oh, well, where did you get it? What were you doing when you did it? Like, what were you doing? Because obviously you were somewhere you shouldn't have been. You were doing something you shouldn't have been doing, and you weren't being careful enough. When really, I feel like this isn't a matter of pointing fingers. I mean, yeah, I would love to know where I got it and when I got it so that I could more accurately figure out, ways I could have avoided it. But we're past that point in the level of community spread we're at now, where I don't really think it's a matter of pointing fingers. And it was just really kind of disheartening to see how many people were more worried about, like, who can I blame for this, as opposed to, how am I feeling? How am I going to handle this?
Absolutely. How do you wish friends and acquaintances would have react? I mean, the first thing out of your mouth is, "Hey guys, I tested positive. I have coronavirus." And now that you've been through it, and if you do have a friend who tests positive, how would you respond to them?
It's funny. So actually, before I tested positive, that I started having nightmares, and it was the craziest thing. So I was having dreams that I tested positive, and people were just like avoiding me on the street and acting like I had the plague. And then once I actually did test positive, that wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that extreme, but it wasn't that far off either, because people were. It, rather than being supportive, they were more, I guess, leery of me, which was very alarming. I wasn't expecting that. So when people were, they just kept asking me, like, well, what were you doing? How did you get it? Like, there's just, it's still more like, what did you do to expose yourself? And I would have much rather appreciated, well, what can we do to prevent ourselves from being in the same situation? I would way rather help educate other people and help possibly prevent the spread, and just be like, what can I do to kind of limit um my vulnerability to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about work a little bit. So you tested positive. How did you tell your employer?
So, obviously on that Monday, I didn't go to work because I was having some symptoms, and I was like, you know what, just with everything going on, I just want to be safe. And so my symptoms progressed throughout the week, and I was becoming more and more sure that I had it. And so actually that following Sunday is when I got my positive test results back. And so I let everybody at work know. They were super supportive. They had um, everybody reached out and said, "Hey, if there's anything you need, let us know. We can deliver groceries. If there's anything that comes up, just please let us know." And everybody was super good about and it's such a blessing to have that, just because I know that there's so many people that have not been so lucky to be in a situation where they weren't going to lose their job, or um not be able to afford to take 2 weeks off being sick with
Right.
this, or however long it takes to get better. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to have such a supportive work environment that was super, super willing to do whatever it took to make sure that I had what I needed.
Yes, that's fantastic. I know that is kind of a looming question for people. If I do get sick, do I have to take time off? Am I able to work from home? And every case is different, and we understand that. For your case, were you able to work from home, or would you say that the symptoms were so bad that you did end up just taking the 2 weeks off? How did that kind of play out?
So the first week I tried to work from home, but with the headaches and everything, and just the fatigue, I wasn't able to look at a computer screen long enough to really be productive. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna play it by ear. Send me some stuff I can get done, and I'll see what I can get to. And they were super willing to work with me on that. And So I was able to get a couple things done in the last few days, but those first 2 weeks, I really wasn't able to get much done.
Yeah. Um, you already mentioned your thoughts on wearing masks and you feel that's important. You feel like that helps. What do you think of the steps that public health officials have imposed here in Montana? Do you think they're overreacting? Do you think it's not enough? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I know that we are not on as big of a scale as some of the more metropolitan areas. I understand that we don't have as much of a population, and some people might think that it's a little bit overboard to make a mask mandate. But I think that if enough people were taking the right safety precautions in the first place, we wouldn't need a mandate. But because they're not, I feel like it is absolutely necessary. And I mean, the one thing I've been using as an analogy is seatbelts were not mandatory at first, but not enough people were choosing to wear them on their own. So they became mandatory because it's not a matter of politics. This is a public safety matter, and people I think it's really important that people adhere to this just for the safety and health of the people around them.
Mhm. What was your view of coronavirus? I mean, obviously there's hype and it's all anyone talks about nowadays. What was your view before coronavirus or of coronavirus before you contracted it?
Honestly, I was not being as careful as I should have been. I was like, I'm 23, I'm young, I'm not going to be that affected by this. And unfortunately, that's the mindset of a lot of people regarding this is that I don't need to worry about it because it's up until now it hasn't affected me personally. And I think that that's kind of the mindset we need to get away from. This experience has been very humbling for me because and like I guess I can understand why people are skeptical because this year has been so crazy and there has been such a circulation of misinformation that it is hard to take these things at face value. But when it comes down to this being as prevalent of a public health issue as it is, I think it's really important that people do their part because I know that everyone has parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, somebody that's high risk for this, and it could be potentially fatal. And I think that it's just really sad to see how many people are allowing their judgment to be clouded by politics when this isn't a political issue at all. This is just a public health issue, and it seems to me it's more of a human decency. Let's do the right thing for each other and help each other because at the end of the day, like this is Montana, and I've been really proud to live here because people have always been so willing to do anything for each other.
What do you want others to know about your experience now that you have gone through it? Some people are asymptomatic. Some people say they've gotten it, but it just really wasn't that bad. It sounds like you had some serious symptoms and it was a struggle for several weeks. What do you want people to take away from this, hearing about your experience and having gone through the coronavirus?
I would just like to remind people that this is real. This is not, no matter what you see on social media. And I know that there's so much conspiracy around it, which there shouldn't be. This is a very real disease, and people are really getting sick out here, and it's dangerous. And I wasn't ever worried for my life so much, but I'm more so worried about the long-term effects from this because it's been 3 weeks and I still get winded walking up and down stairs and doing very simple everyday tasks. And so this is gonna have some lasting effects for me, and I don't know when I'm gonna feel normal again. And that's scary. So I guess the one thing I would say is just to remind people that there's a lot of uncertainty with this, and so please take the necessary precautions because the symptoms are very real and we don't know how long it can affect people.
All right, Caty. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us and appreciate you sitting down with me and filling us in and kind of giving us that inside scoop. And I truly hope you are feeling better soon and able to get back to a normal life.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jessica.